a building like mine, for example, we're at about 3.5 million square feet. We have an addition coming that's going to be another 400 plus thousand. So, I mean, we're growing. You can't expect that building to be in a standstill and not see staff working. They have to be visible. And
Absolutely.
everything that you touched about with that interaction is key. And we call that AIDIT. AIDIT's an acronym: Acknowledge, Introduce, Duration, Expectation, Thank You. The neat thing about environmental services is that you can clean and talk at the same time. And a highly effective housekeeper, environmental services tech, is one that's going to be going through that acronym. They're going to properly introduce or acknowledge the patient and recognize that they're here. We're entering their space for the duration that they're in the room. That is their home. That is their space, and we have to be respectful of that. A proper introduction with good tone and eye contact and a friendly posture, telling them how who you are and how long you're going to be there for. Set all the expectations, because sometimes people come in and what you expect in a hotel is maybe not as feasible as what you should expect in the hospital. Clearly our staff don't have the time to fold towels into birds and leave mints on pillows, but they should be able to explain, while you're here, I'm going to take care of all these surfaces in your room. I'm going to make sure your bathroom is properly stocked and cleaned and disinfected. I'm going to make sure that your trash is pulled. I'm going to make sure your floor is clean. They can even ask them if there's something very personal to them that they want done. For example, we like to talk about patient safety and putting that in the hands of the environmental services tech. And the closest thing to a patient while they're in the bed are the bed rails and the call bell. Those are things that are touched all the time. So if we take a step to say, I want to really make sure that you're going to be safe, so I'm going to take some time to wipe your bed rails and call bell, that gives them a sense like, wow, they're really looking out for my safety, and they appreciate it.
Especially, Jeff, you bring up a good point. That's especially important now. It was important before. It's really important now.
It's really important now.
The disinfection of the high touch surface. So,
Yeah.
we know you're very passionate
what?
about infection control.
You know, both,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say, my father was recently in the hospital in New York City just 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the interesting thing was that housekeeping came in, and it's something that one of you touched on it before. I forgot who mentioned it, which rang a bell. And he was there for a couple of nights. And one of the things that he brought up to me, he says, it was really annoying, the housekeeping aide, when he came in to mop the floor, he was using some kind of chemical that was making me gag. The smell was so bad, it was making me gag.
Right.
And I explained to my father, I said, you have to understand that, the housekeeping aide it's not his fault what he's using. He's using what they tell him to use. You have to look at what he's doing, and you really give him the respect and understand that he's trying to just, take care of everything that you want done and for your safety. So you have to be really respectful to him. And if you have a problem with the smell of the chemical, you should just let him know to bring a supervisor up or manager up and so on. But what was interesting about that whole thing was, when you mentioned odor, whether it's a stripper or whether it's a floor finish or whether it's the disinfectants that people use, it's a very powerful influence on the HCAP. I know, people are very sensitive to smells. I sometimes get sensitive to certain kinds of smells, and that can change a major outlook, on what the cleanliness or what the service of the facility is, just based on that alone. And I think that's something that hospitals have to consider a lot more often, because you're right, shiny floors are real important. But if you have a shiny floor and someone walks into your room with something that's noxious, it's gonna affect the HCAP score.
So, Jeff, what are some alternative cleaning methods that are out there that maybe you might be thinking of using?
Well, I mean, you bring up a great question, and I think first we should preface by saying, it's 2020, and the thing that I've always really reflected on a lot in my career in environmental services is that there's a lot that we still do as environmental services professionals that hasn't changed over the course of several decades. I mean, we're still, sometimes we're still utilizing mops and buckets. We're still utilizing disinfectants that are sometimes quaternary based and and we're actually wiping things down still, and that's some of that's necessary. Nothing can replace good old-fashioned elbow grease and scrubbing of a surface because you have to remove the biofilm. And I know there's things out there that are marketed as well. You can treat an area very quickly and not have to worry about cleaning, and that's simply not the case.
But for
There's some
those,
things that have been.
Jeff, excuse me, for those who don't know, what is biofilm?
Biofilm would be the physical contamination of a surface. You could say soil, dirt, germs, things that are touched. Like let's talk about maybe a handrail or a push plate on a door or an overbed table. Every time we touch that surface, there's oils, there's contaminants, there's germs that come off of our skin and go onto that surface. And the more people that touch a surface, the more it gets contaminated. So to really clean, you have to completely remove that biofilm off that surface, and that's where that mechanical motion of cleaning comes into play. You can't ever get away from that. That is so important in cleaning. Sometimes there's advances where we make adjustments to products. So, for example, a lot of hospitals will use microfiber. Microfiber is very effective at picking up that biofilm, that gross soil that's on surfaces. We've seen a transfer from regular string mops, which can hold all kinds of bacteria and germs and just be generally gross to work with. We're evolving to flat mops that can trap dirt and germs, and they can either be disposable or launderable. Same with cloths and wipes. You can design surfaces and materials and environments to be, kind of, for lack of a better term, naturally antimicrobial. So, for example, if you're in a building and they have predominantly copper push plates and door handles, copper is naturally antimicrobial. That's a great way to, not only have a little bit of a curb appeal, but it's also naturally killing germs as it's being touched. Privacy curtains and certain fabrics now have silver ion penetration. Silver ions can kill a variety of germs. They're even making antimicrobial floor materials. LVT and VCT style floors, they're actually being infused with an antimicrobial agent. And then you have some of the ancillary technologies that can help enhance cleaning or provide an extra step. A lot of people are familiar with ultraviolet radiation, UV lights. UV lights, lots of studies done to prove that they kill germs. You could have a fogging system, like there's a system called the Halo system, where they basically seal off a room and they can fog it with a type of disinfectant, usually like a peroxyacetic acid, but that can touch a lot of spaces. And then there's some alternative technology, like the use of it's widely known outside of the United States, and it's starting to make headway here. Hypochlorous acid, not to clarify, hypochlorous acid, HOCl, which sometimes people hear as hydrochloric, and there's two big differences right there. Hypochlorous acid, HOCl, is a very effective disinfectant that, believe it or not, can be manufactured by creating a salt brine, water and salt, and you run it through an electrostatic cell, and there's a chemical reaction, and the end product that comes out is a very powerful disinfectant that can kill a whole variety of different organisms that can be manufactured at a near neutral state and is very safe for the end user and for patients. And I think now in learning that we have to be able to respond rapidly to a pandemic because we're living through one. Having the means to use ancillary products and technology is a must now. There's really no way around it because, one of the things we noticed in ground zero of this pandemic is, not only are our cases going up, but we're being challenged to ensure that our supply lines are being fed and making sure that we have the product to work with. And, there's a possibility that if we're using disinfectant X, and maybe the company gets overwhelmed and they can't manufacture enough disinfectant X, do you have a backup that you can go to? And that's where having alternate products that are approved can really help you in a pinch.
Excellent point. I never thought of that. Up until recently, uh, we noticed that we couldn't get supplies in on time. So
Right.
imagine if we didn't get the disinfectants in on time. Now we
We would
have
be really, really compromised there. And that's one thing
compromised.
that we've been exploring at my facility. We're starting to do some additional work with the hypochlorous acid product. It's it, we've discovered that it's a great visual because people we're utilizing it in an electrostatic sprayer form. And for electrostatic spraying, to those of you who don't know what that is, I always tell people think of the Mako commercials, and if you see the auto body technician and he's running the paint gun over, and it's that fine mist, and it kind of wraps around the car body, that's electrostatic spraying. What it does is the solution runs through an electrostatic nozzle, and every droplet that comes out is the same size, same density, same shape, and it's given a static charge, and so it has a wraparound effect. So let's say, for example, if I'm standing in front of my desk and I hold out an electrostatic sprayer in front and I'm spraying the desk, it actually wraps around. So it will actually touch the underside, the back of the desk, the back of the legs. And so I don't necessarily have to walk around in a 360-degree pattern to spray every surface.
Right.
Electrostatic spraying is used in a lot of different technologies, and it's not new to using disinfectant. But what makes hypochlorous really great is the safety and the rapid action in killing germs. And safety is a big plus because not only are those droplets generated at a size that the human body cannot aspirate. Aspirate. I had to think of the term aspirate, meaning that we can't breathe it in and it can't affect our lung tissue. But being as at a near neutral state, like usually 6.8 to 7 pH, like truly neutral, it will not damage surfaces. And there's a lot of products out there that are widely used that can break down surfaces, soft surfaces like vinyls on chairs and cushions, to hard plastics and even components on patient
Metals.
equipment. Metals, yeah.
Even metals, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the novel approaches.
So Dr. Carr, as a person coming into a hospital, and you know that hospital is using hypochlorous acid instead of bleach on some of the surfaces, and now you know that you may be allergic to bleach. Now they're using something else that's so safe for you to be able to roam in the hospital safely. How would you feel about that?
Well, if I know it's safe and it's not going to cause, sometimes when we hear about UV rays and things of that sort, a lot of time my brain goes to X-rays and things of that sort. So if I am assured, or if that information is kind of like explained instead of just using it, then I will feel a little bit more comfortable with you all using that, and I will feel as if it's a better product because it's penetrating a little bit deeper into the surfaces. But again, I do want to make sure that these things are safe because as a patient, I'm already there with a health issue, and I'm already there. Maybe I'm in pain. For whatever reason that I'm there, maybe I have a health problem or some kind of disease, and I don't want anything that may add to it. So it's very important that I know that this information is safe. One of the things that I would suggest or kind of suggest is when you are introducing new things into the hospital, maybe that information can be listed somewhere, like, hey, in the waiting area, hey, we're using this new UV product, it's safe and healthy, just like we would advertise if we were trying to get information about diabetes to a patient that has diabetes, and we'll plaster it over the wall and give information. So
Jeff, back to you. How would you introduce a new product into a facility?
Well, first, the first step is to making sure that all the